there should be a video of them in the booth so I know what they're doing.
Oh.
It's an interesting song. It's not my theme song. There it is. What was that, though? It was really good.
Nice issue.
I like that. Welcome, everyone. It's 6:03 on Monday night, and you're listening to the 104th installment of the Age Out Angels Radio Hour on www.hamiltonradio.net, Channel 2. I'm your host, Greg Rapport. I'm the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels. We're a 501c3 nonprofit corporation that provides one-to-one mentors to vulnerable youth for the purpose of coordinating the care and services that they need to survive. We try to help young people avoid some of the horrible pitfalls that they're likely to face if they don't have a proper safety net. And this program is brought to you every week at this same time, courtesy of Doc G, William Saunders, Ruben Rodriguez, and all the fine people here at Hamilton Radio who allow us to use this airtime. Ruben is on the big board tonight. Robin is producing. So good to have both of you here, and thank you so much at home for tuning in. We've put together what I hope you will find to be an insightful and compelling view of the child welfare system and related issues that improve our community. So get ready, because tonight on the radio hour, we're going to talk about how much it sucks to try to start a nonprofit and how everyone asks you where your office is located, and if you had two nickels to rub together, would you actually spend them on office space? Our guest, Sean Jackson, will demystify all of that for us. And we're also going to hear tonight from Kevin Baldwin and Patricia Hall from Men for Hope, and they're going to show us their take on how they are trying to help heal this community. So stay with us for the whole hour tonight, and I promise you'll be just a little richer for having done so. And stay with Hamilton Radio all night long for a combination of great music and talk. The Monday night lineup is really starting to gel. It's starting to take shape. And 5 o'clock on Mondays, it's urban economics and development. And then we come in from 6 to 7. After us, it's the Rome Show, talking sports for an hour. And then at 8 o'clock, it's a brand new show, and I don't know what it is. All we know is her name is Kathy.
There you go.
So stick around and find out what Kathy is all about at 8 o'clock. Keep it right here at Hamilton Radio all night long for great talk and great music. Now, please take a moment, open a separate browser, and find us on Facebook. Go to my name, Greg Rapport, and hit that share button. Or even better, email your whole address book and tell everyone to go to www.hamiltonradio.net, Channel 2. Tell everyone in your world what we're talking about tonight, because what you're going to hear here applies to every geographic region, especially where you live. And what we talk about here needs to be shared, so don't keep this private to yourself. Help us share it. Tell your friends. There's a generation of youth out there being forgotten, and caring people like you and me and the people in the studio tonight can't sit still while that happens. And while you're doing that, let me remind you that we're here almost every Monday from 6 to 7 with the Age Out Angels Radio Hour. We'll be off next week. And it's not because of Thanksgiving. I'll tell you why at the end of the show. But we'll be back with a bang on December 9th, because on December 9th, we're going to spend a whole hour with Professor Daniel Crofts. He is the gentleman who wrote a book called Lincoln and the Politics of Slavery, the Other 13th Amendment and the Struggle to Save the Union. And the information that he has as an expert on that time period is so incredibly germane to what we're going through right now in our political world. And also what happened back then, actually, it's sort of like if you take what happened back then and trace it all the way through to today, you can see how the roots of what things are right and what things are wrong in our communities actually have their roots back in that time frame. So you are not going to want to miss that one. And then on December 16th, Amelia Frank will be with us. And we're going to spend the whole hour with her as well. She's an expert on resilience and adverse childhood experiences. and all the things that really affect young people who have suffered complex childhood trauma. So those are two shows, December 9th and December 16th. You are absolutely, positively not going to want to miss. I promise you, if you listen to the show on December 9th, whatever you thought about the Civil War and Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation, your thoughts will be shattered. They will be absolutely shattered, because what we all have come to believe is true is not at all how it happened. So be sure to tune in every Monday at 6 p.m. for our unfiltered look at the child welfare system and other related community services. This is where you come to get the whole truth, and I promise what you will hear tonight cannot be found on the nightly news. And since we're live, you can write to us during the show in the comments field on Facebook, or call in if you want to join the conversation. Be a part of the show if you want. The phone number is 609-807-2492. Again, 609-807-2492. Sophia Rudin, a writer in Rhode Island, has always come up with sort of interesting profiles and insights into what happens to children when they age out of foster care. And I wanted to read this story to you because, well, I guess I'm a little bit proud of Rhode Island. They're one of the last states to finally come around and let children remain in the foster care system until they're 21. And Sophia did an interview with a lady named Tanya Townsend. And Tanya was 10 years old, and she was in class, and they called her name to the office. And she says, I went up there and I sat in a room, and they came in and they were like, so, sorry, but you're not going home. And they just separated her from her brother, brought her to a car, brought her to a house with her clothing in a trash bag. And she said, like, I need to call my dad. He doesn't know where I am. And they said, you can't call your dad. And she says, I was like, I need to let my grandfather know where I am. And they were like, you can't. You can't call anyone right now. So we're talking about a 10-year-old girl who was being yanked and placed into the foster care system. And how does she remember this? She says, I felt like I was kidnapped. Like someone just picked me up from school, brought me to a random stranger's house, and I had no idea what was going on. She says that her grandfather tried to stay in her life throughout, wherever she was. And they moved her a lot in foster care, from house to house to house. They even moved her out of state to Vermont at one point. But wherever she went, he would visit or find a way to find her. He'd come and take her out to eat. He would advocate for her. So when at one foster home the lady wouldn't come home and she wasn't getting fed, and there wasn't a phone in the house to call for help, and Tanya also had a 9-month-old baby at the time, and she was just left there, and she was 15. And she says, I'm like, she uses the words I'm like a lot. She says, I'm like, I don't know what to do. And remember her grandfather contacting DCYF, which is, the DYFS there, and saying, listen, you need to do something about this. It's a dangerous situation. So he would sort of come in behind her back and be able to help her when she was, kids are just not able to advocate for themselves in that way. She said, I'd gotten 2 jobs and I was actually buying everything for myself. She was buying food for the whole house. She was buying diapers. And DCYF came in and said, and she explained to them that she's trying really hard to support her child and all of the household responsibilities that went with that. And the DCYF worker looked at her then foster parent and said, like, excuse me, but this is your responsibility. Exactly. You're supposed to be buying these items. This is why the state's paying you. Yeah. Right? Now, she says, I was going full-time at CCRI, which I assume is Community College of Rhode Island, which is amazing, by the way, because only 3% of kids who age out of foster care actually graduate college. I had got a job on campus to make it easier with the navigation, taking the bus and everything. I was doing really well, and I was just like, please let me stay. I'm not ready to be on my own. And they were like, nope, sorry. And so the day before my 18th birthday, I was on the floor of an apartment with no furniture, no nothing. It was just me and my daughter. And I was like, okay, now what? I have no idea what to do. I really just figured out how to be independent. Now, how rare is it that a child who is 18 years old can just figure out how to be independent? This is a very special lady. She figured out how to get my child to daycare by myself, how to get to work by myself, taking the buses, figuring out how I can do it all, and still further my education. Isn't that beautiful, though? And she still had the education component in her head. And she says, I think being left to the wolves and just kind of left on my own, I realized, think about this positive view, right? I realized that I was in control of how my life was going to be. Like I was in control of how I was going to feel, who I was going to become, what was going to become of me. So I kind of was like, okay, I can sit in this room and do nothing, or I can do everything that I can possibly do to somehow be successful and be able to provide more for my children than had been provided for me. That is just an amazing woman. Now, in my final words tonight, I want to address the issue of education or lack thereof. And see what we can do about that. So be sure to stick around for it, because at Age Out Angels, we've been hatching out a plan for quite a while, and it's about to start to come to fruition. 609-807-2492 is the number if you'd like to call in. You can write into the comments field on my Facebook page. We're going to take a quick break. Please hit that share button on Facebook and stay where you are. Back in 1 minute with Kevin Baldwin, Patricia Hall, and Sean Jackson. Don't go away. And we're back, but also in the middle of a conversation here. First of all, let me just introduce my guests. If you're watching this on Facebook, to my left is Kevin Baldwin and Patricia Hall, and they are here representing, Men for Hope, but also the True Love Ministries. You had me at True Love. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you
It's
for
so
having
good to have you here on the show. We had Patrick Hall here last week, and now we have Patricia Hall here. So one by one, we're going through the whole Hall
the
family.
Hall family. There's
Yeah.
a Patrice Hall out there too.
There
Just
is.
letting you know.
Okay.
Digging the halls in a minute.
I started, forgive me, but I started
That's next
making
month.
jokes that it's really the same person. They change wigs and outfits
And I do that.
and come in. Also with me, sitting to my right, is Sean Jackson, and Sean is here tonight representing Isles.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you
Isles,
for having me.
Isles is a local nonprofit in Trenton, but when I think of Isles, I think of like the big five nonprofits in the Trenton area, and Isles is one of them. Yes. Like you might not be quite as big as the United Way, but when it comes to Trenton, Isles has been around for about 30, 40 years, right?
38 years, and
Yeah.
we have, founded by Marty Johnson, who was inspired during his studies at Princeton to come down and find out what was going on and some of the challenges that were facing the community, and never left.
Yeah,
and has remained a pillar in the community and fought for going on 4 decades now of how to make productive social change in the city that includes the community and helps folks become self-sustaining members of the community. And it's a great group of folks who work really hard to make a difference every day.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you do it in many different ways. Like we've had some representatives from Isles come on here
Sure, yeah.
to talk about. We talked about lead.
Yep.
Lead mitigation.
Yep.
Right?
Trying to get the lead out.
And then
by 2027, we want to get all the lead out of Trenton.
There you go.
Whether it's in the water, whether it's in the paint, whether it's in
Yeah.
the soil. We know it's poisoning our kids, and that half the kids in the city of Trenton schools are lead poisoned.
Yeah.
Patricia and I do some work with another organization together, the Trenton Literacy Movement, and one of the things that we deal with there is that kids can't read by the end of 3rd grade, and at Isles, I'm seeing all these connections to it's because these kids are lead poisoned.
Yeah,
And
God,
we're
yeah.
just sitting here. We hear about the stories about the drinking water, but it is so much more than that. It's lead in the paint, and it just chips off, or ends up in the home, and we need to deal with it, and we're starting to. But so far, we've been fixated on the water. Water is about 20% of the problem, to be honest with you.
Right, yeah.
80% of the lead problem is what's in the paint in all these old homes. So, but anyhow, I don't want to digress
No,
from your
I had
your
no
agenda tonight.
idea when I booked all of you on the show that you sort of
There
knew
was-
each other.
right.
And,
It's a
you
small
know,
world.
Had been working together on different projects and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's really kind of neat. So, anyway, now that everyone knows who you are, we were talking during the break about Tanya, the story that I was telling. Before the break, and what I wanted to say is that because Patricia mentioned that she had the child at 15, right? And what I'm getting told from people in the psychiatry profession is that what's happening in urban areas is that girls are growing up in families without a father, right?
Yes.
And so what happens is in a typical family, a girl falls in love with her father. That's the first male that she actually falls in love with, and through that process she learns, sort of the difference between a fatherly love and a peer relationship. And gets perspective on all those things. When a young girl grows up without all of that perspective, she's sort of prey to the first boy who comes along and says, "Yeah, I love you forever," right?
Yeah.
And I'll take you out of all this, and everything is going to be so sweet. And next thing you know, she has a baby, and 9 months after that, he's gone.
He's gone before then.
And he's gone before that, right? And so, yeah. So I mean, it's such a kind of a typical story. And the other story that I also hear a lot too is girls who grow up in the foster care system who aren't with their biological families. They will have a baby because for them it's like a vow. Right? They'll say, "What I'm going to have a baby, and I'm going to do it right. I'm not going to do it the way my mother did it, and this is going to happen, and it's going to be a beautiful, wonderful thing." And it is for like 6 months, But after that, it's a real baby.
It's a lot to deal with.
And and it's running around the house and teething and keeping you up
Right.
all night. And,
A lot of the young girls do it also because they're looking for someone to love them. They're looking for that
Yes.
unconditional love
Yeah.
that they are that's absent
Yes.
in their life. So they figure if I have this little person, and I bring this little person in the world
depends on them.
that depends on them, relies on them,
Yeah.
that this little person will
Absolutely.
love me.
right.
And yes, they
Yeah.
will, but there's a whole lot that comes with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hard work that comes with it on her part, but they don't see that. They
Right.
just they're lacking that love, and they're looking for it in all the wrong places.
Yeah, yeah, and I was talking about this stuff at a group the other day because I lecture anywhere where they will let me, right? And somebody came up to me and explained to me how I was all wrong, and they have these babies so that they can get the welfare money, and then they won't have to work. And I was like, "Oh,
They're out there
no!"
too. They're out there too, but
that's like the outward. But we talking about. See, there's a deeper root.
yeah.
We always talk about getting to the root of the problem.
Okay.
That's just some surface stuff that is money and all. But what Patricia was talking about, the deeper part, they're looking for that love that they can't get nowhere else.
Absolutely.
Money coming along, that helps them keep going. Because at some point, that baby gonna start costing them. And if they ain't got someone to come in, a lot of them get boyfriends that they think gonna help take care of the baby
Yes.
because now the man is gone. But
Yes.
it's a deeper root that we're looking for.
Yeah.
Like what's missing? Because something is missing why they keep chasing all that other stuff. All that other stuff there, that's something to talk about out there in the political stuff. But on the real side, there's still a child that don't know nothing about life. No one taught them nothing about life.
Yep.
And now they out here in the world and they fending the best way they know how. It's like if you drowning, you reaching for everything that's in the air. So they reaching for everything in the air. No one's giving them direction. And I always tell people, like as a man myself, we fell short as me. And now my job now is to try to do the best I can to make sure every young lady and young man has a better opportunity to make it in this world. See, once you realize your mistakes, you got to do something about it.
Absolutely.
Because
yeah.
we losing kids every day
Yeah.
because somebody falling short because they need to.
We're losing generations every day.
Generations.
Yeah, whole
Exactly. That's
generation.
right.
When we grew up, you had somebody to learn from. Who did they learn love from? Like my daughter, first day she had, I took her because I wanted her to know what kind of man I'm looking for her to have. Who takes them on a date? What train track do they get back on?
That's right.
When they get lost out there, they lost. And I thank God. Thank you for these programs y'all have because that gives you another chance to save one more.
Right.
If you save one, she'll get to reach somebody. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you ain't got to do it that way. And a lot of times they'll hear from each other. It's hard to hear from us because they figure we old folks.
And I want to say that we know this because we talk to the youth and they tell us. You mentioned True Love Ministries. Well, True Love Ministries works with Men for Hope, so we get the same group of kids. So one night at church, the pastor asked, this was the service, he asked the young people, why do you come here? Why are you here? We have church on a Saturday night. Why are you here? And he polled every child, about 38 kids in church that night. And to hear these girls stand up and say, because I know that my pastor loves me, real love. I don't get that at home. That's what it's all about, and that's what they're missing. That's what they're lacking.
That's amazing. You weren't expecting that answer.
Not at all.
were
We
you?
were crying, and it was an and these kids
And
meant
everything-
what they said.
Right.
Everything we do, like if what he do, like over there ours, they feel the love. They know who real. They know who just there just to be there. And when you show someone love, you have a better chance of reaching them than anything else in this world. And our kids are lost. A lot of our kids are lost. We deal with a lot of kids on a daily basis. We get to talk to them. We get down to the grassroots. Our programs are set up so the kids can talk. Like our services, we eat after every service. That's not just because they're hungry. It's so they can sit there and interact. We can watch how they interact, and we can interact with them and start having a dialogue. Because once a person know that you care about them, they'll do anything to
Making that connection.
Once you
Exactly.
make that connection, they know you really care. Now they'll come to you and share that stuff, that root stuff that you can start dissolving. Because if you don't get the root out, it's gonna always grow back.
Yeah,
It's always gonna grow back.
absolutely.
It's like you plant something. If you pull the top of a cabbage off, next year another cabbage will be there.
Yeah.
Because it'll grow from the root.
And little things. I mean, while you're having that meal, like,
Yeah.
using silverware correctly.
Oh yes,
You
we
know.
teach them etiquette.
We teach them etiquette,
we sure
yeah.
do.
Well, I always
I don't
tell-
think they know they're learning, to be honest.
hopefully,
Yeah.
if you're lucky.
Well,
Right.
and
That's
good
the best-
parenting is always about modeling,
It's
right?
all about
You're
modeling.
modeling the behavior you want, to
Yeah.
impart.
Exactly.
And that's whether it's, at your dinner table at home with your mom and dad or at a place where you're playing such a pivotal role helping these kids find their way back.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
I always tell the story about the girl I was having lunch with, and it was she and her baby and me, and I was just trying to find a mentor for her and trying to find out what makes her tick to get the right, because mentoring is a lot of matchmaking involved. That's kind of what it is. From here, I'm going to run a dating service. But she ordered a hamburger, and the waitress said to her, "How would you like it cooked?" And she said, 21-year-old girl, she said, "No one's ever asked me that before."
Wow. Wow.
And you could see the humiliation,
Wow.
right? You could
Yeah.
see that start to well up in her. And I looked at the waitress and I said, well, no, she's been a vegetarian her whole life. She's never, had this
Right,
experience.
right.
So I, tried to save her a little bit, but it's all those little things that go into going through life without humiliation.
Exactly.
That are so very important. Okay, so what's the umbrella organization here? Is it True Life Ministries? Is it Men for Hope? Is it a church? What's the big
I give you some
umbrella?
background. True Love Ministry started in 2010. I was a minister at the church. It was 10 kids in our neighborhood. They was acting up a little bit, and my son had a basketball team. They all played in our yard. So one day they asked my son, "Why you always got to go to church on Sunday?" I said, "Well, come here Saturday night, and we'll talk about it." So they started coming on Saturday night. The parents started coming because they were like, "What my kid doing in your house on Saturday night?" Then another gentleman came, Minister Britton Thomas, with this idea of Men for Hope, bringing men. First, it was all about bringing men back into the children's life. So we got these 10 boys, and we did everything with them. We took them everywhere, and then they started bringing their friends, and it just started growing. And then that's what we said that God took over. It just took over and just started growing. And now it then got to the point now where we have 2 buildings, a house, 3 or 4 vans, because we do pickups, because most of these parents don't have vehicles, so we do pickup. But
Sure.
I wanted to share a story with y'all real quick. This is what broke my heart one time. I was talking to a young man. He was 14 years old. And I said, "Man, look, you got to change your life. You got to take another look at things. What you're doing, the end result is going to be this here." He said, "Listen, man." He said, "Listen, Pop, let me tell you. I ain't gonna be alive at the age of 18.
Right.
What do you tell a
God
kid
almighty.
at 14
Yeah.
to tell you, listen, man,
Ugh.
you wasting your time on me. I'm not, and that's what gave me my drive.
Yeah.
Now I need to tell you that kid is still alive today.
But
Still,
that's not an
that-
uncommon story.
Right.
Right, and that's
Breaks
not
your heart.
right.
Breaks your heart
Because
every
they
time.
They don't see no
Unbelievable.
hope, and that's what Men for Hope is. Helping other people to elevate, give them hope, show them that they can possibly. That's why I always tell my story. I ain't got a pretty background. It ain't. It's ugly. So I tell them that so they can know that if I can come out of it,
Right.
you can come out of it.
Yeah.
That's the only story I got. If I come out of it, you can come out of it. So what you see now could have been what you were. But if I came out of it, you can come out of it. And I just want to help you. Tell me what I can do to help you. And I always tell the kid, let's start with the truth. Get rid of the lies, and that way we ain't got to break the lie down to get to the truth. Because once we know the truth, then we can start getting to that inner stuff to help a person. You know, Minister Brendan Thomas, we do a boxing program. Awesome. Because the kid come in there with all that aggression,
Yeah.
and he teaches how to channel that aggression and use it for life. Because everything you do in life, you can have aggression, but it's got to be the right aggression. You can be aggressive about going about a job or building a building or moving up the corporate ladder. Do it the right way.
Yeah, you can be as aggressive at construction as you can at
Exactly.
destruction.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right. Aggression works both ways.
And Sean, I think it goes back to something that you said just a few minutes ago. Because when you're looking at a young man who thinks he's going to be dead by the time he's 18 or in jail, I get that a lot too.
Right,
You know, I'll
right.
be in jail. What was modeled, you know, in that child's life? I get when I ask people what they want to be, you know, when they grow up, I'll get social worker, lawyer, judge. You know, and psychologist.
'Cause that's what
The
they
whole-
see all
they're
the time.
used to.
That's
you
what
know,
they
the Holy
yeah.
Four.
They're
Yeah, that's
familiar
what they
with.
know. That's
Yeah.
what's been
What they've been in.
modeled, you know, in front of them. Teachers been modeled, but they don't want to be
Right.
teachers.
Right.
So you know that's what they see, and then of course you know we can go back deeper and deeper when you're talking about you know what's at the root of the problem. Well, you know what's at the root of the problem is institutionalized racism and lack of opportunity, and you know why are people ending up in jail? They're ending up in jail because there's no other way for them to make a living half the time, and the other half of the time it's just so easy and convenient to pick them up and send them there. You know it works so well, especially in private jail circumstances. So you can go back into the depth of all that stuff. But what we all do is just try to take them one at a time, you know, and show them that
Make
there
a
is.
difference.
Yeah.
That's what's beautiful about what you're doing because it's not oh my God, this is an overwhelming problem. What am I going to do? And sitting on your couch and wallowing. It's here are 10 young men. We started in my backyard around basketball, and look what we've built it into. And you have such a powerful story
38,
to
40
share.
kids.
You know, that's a beautiful thing.
And,
That's a
and I
beautiful
want
thing.
I want to make sure that the people at home understand that this is something that needs to be done everywhere. It's not exclusive to Trenton.
No,
Yeah,
no,
Exactly.
No, this
Exactly.
is nationwide.
Absolutely.
In other countries too. Ain't
Absolutely.
just this country.
Yeah.
There's other countries that have the problem. But I want everyone to put this in their mind. When you reaching down, be helping somebody up. If you can't help them up, don't even say nothing to them. When you reach down, you should be trying to help another man up. If you don't rose up above, don't just get there and forget where you came from. Reach back and help another one get up. Then you can go on about your business because then his job is to reach back and help somebody up.
We're all standing on somebody's shoulder.
somebody's shoulders.
We're all standing on somebody's
All of us,
shoulders.
all of us stand
Yeah.
on
Give 'em a
somebody-
hand
and
up.
we need to
Yep.
remember that. We stand on somebody's shoulder. Somebody help you get where you got,
Absolutely.
you know?
And I don't want this to get skipped over. I want to make sure that everyone understands in both in the church and Men for Hope, these kids are there because they want to be.
Yes.
They may get assigned by the court, but we are not forcing one child. Now, they're not all assigned by the court, but we don't force one single kid on the bus, not one. They're bringing other kids with them. That's how we've grown. That's how the program has grown. These kids are there because they want to be. They crave
They call
to
it
be
their program.
loved, cared for someone to try to understand them, to hear them. You know, one of the first
Place to belong.
one of the first young women that I was given to mentor, I was helping her get ready for her prom. And, you know, we have a lot of organizations that we work with. Gowns were donated and everything. So I'm there to help her get dressed and do her hair and everything. But I'm shocked because her mom is there. And mom is completely not a part of this whole process. And the young girl says to me, I forget what the conversation was, but she ended it with, my mother doesn't love me. And that broke my heart because when I watched the interaction, her mother behaved as though she really didn't love her. And it was a little deeper than that. You know, this was a situation where this child had a different father than the other children, so the anger towards the father was put towards the child, and therefore, but the child felt this. She was what, 13? 13 years old? You know, it breaks your heart. What do you do? And that's why I'm here, because this organization really focuses on each individual child. We treat each child individually. They're not, you know, thrown in a bucket and everybody gets the same thing. There's individual love and attention that's given to these young people. And the kids and the young people appreciate it. They like it. They love it.
Now, you personally, you do a lot of different things. Are you
my goodness.
a volunteer in
Yes.
Men for Hope or True Life Ministries? What are you
I'm a volunteer in Men for
Let
Hope.
me say this about the staff at there. Every staff member that we have there wants to be there. They feel like they was sent to come there, and then once they come and see what's going on, they buy in. Like I use this as an example. I can make a phone call right now and say I need da 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 da. It won't be no question why you need it. It'll be where you need it at and when can I get there. Like right now as we talking, there's a program going on right now that normally I drive for because it got switched up and I had to be here. They doing the pickup, so that's why I was looking at the phone to make sure that because I'm like the big bitty. I like to keep an eye out the hidden and keep an eye out everything. And sometimes I have to let that go. But I know they're taking care of business. The kids at night are actually going to boxing. They're going to the gym to do exercise. Something the kids don't. They stay on the computers all the time.
All the time.
So we want to make sure they get some activity into their life.
Yeah.
You know, get them moving around. See what it feel like to jump on a rope or lift a weight or get in the ring and punch and be punched back.
But, you know, I'm so glad we're having this conversation because, you know, I have a young person who's in our group who says he really wants to learn how to box.
Oh, we got. See,
He's a professional.
And
Mr.
the
Britton is a
thing is,
professional
he's
boxer.
like, you know, he's like a beanpole. I'm telling him, be a lover. Don't.
Lightweight. There's
Feel
lightweight
love.
boxing. There's
Right.
boxing out there.
And that's a good.
my category.
Minister Britton is the best kid boxer I ever seen. I have never seen someone. He's a professional boxer, but his passion now. He said he don't even like boxing anymore. He said, but I know what it can do for someone because I know what it done for me. This guy was boxing on the streets of Newark at the age of 15, grown men that his people had him fighting. That's how he grew up. He said, I don't want nobody to go through that.
Yeah.
So I make sure I got a place for him to box, a professional place to box.
People have some serious stories.
Yes,
don't they?
it's
Goodness gracious. So tell me some of the other things that you do, Patricia. What are you involved in?
Well, I'm also on the ministerial staff of True Love Ministries.
Okay.
I've been there since 2013. I was at another church for 27 years, answered the call to preach and everything there. But because of the relationship between myself and the pastor, I've known him for over 20 years, I went to visit True Love Ministries. Walked into the room. It was in his home at the time, and there were 30 kids sitting there. Couldn't wait to hear what was going to be taught and read and spoken to them. And it just pulled at my heart and at my spirit to go back. So I ended up, it took me about 2 years before I finally left the other church and came onto this ministerial staff. But so I every now and again, I get a kid to mentor. I'm also the founder of A New Way, LLC, which is relationship coaching. I do premarital coaching, relationship coaching of those who are contemplating marriage or are married. That's one facet. What else do I do, Pastor? And I did just retire. I just retired from the Trenton Free Public
You have, like,
Library
11
after
business
33 years. I think that's about
you
it.
get ready to start the internet.
I'm going to have
Sister thing.
an internet ministry where I will be delivering a word every Sunday via Facebook. I have a women's mentor group. It's called It's a Sister Thing, SISTAH. And that is, it's online. It started in my home. I had 24 women in my home. We started a Facebook page with the 24 women, and it is now over 1,100 women in 4 different on 4 different continents.
Yeah, you can
So-
really get around using
Yes.
using that kind of technology
Yes.
in that way. That's really cool. So you mentioned that the first place you went was a meeting that was happening in Pastor's home.
Yeah.
And boy, that makes me think about your offer, because all of us nonprofits need a place to hang our
Yes.
hats.
Yes, we
to
do.
And it's just so frustrating, when you start a nonprofit, you have no money, and people are not really willing to give you a whole lot, based on a concept. There was a time you could sell a concept, but no more. You got to have evidence-based results now. So there, but then they say, so where are you located? And you go, well, I have a house.
There you go.
And I have a
PO
room.
box.
Yep, right, a P.O. box.
Right.
There we go.
Right. And when we come back from break, we're going to start with Sean, because what he has done is participated in the rehab of a building that's just amazing, and that you're trying to do it in a sort of a shared office space way for nonprofits. So we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back in 1 minute. There's still plenty of show left. There's plenty of time for you to hit that share button on Facebook. Stay right where you are. Don't go away.
But you got the point before you got to finish this up, too. Yeah, in your opening monologue there.
In the corner for right there. Who's in there?
And we are back. A lot of good people listening and watching. I guess watching the show on Facebook tonight. Mark Stoudemire is out there. Johnny Smallwood. Stan Swan. James Below. Marty Blumenthal. Thank you so much, you guys, for representing for us out there. I hope you're hitting that share button on Facebook. I appreciate it very much. And before we go further, I do need to thank all the people who made donations to Age Out Angels this week. We thank you so much for your kind generosity. If you have an employee giving fund or matching gifts foundation associated with your place of work, we would certainly appreciate your contacting us and telling us how we can participate in that. Private message me on Facebook or email to greg@ageoutangels.org, and I will send you a link to make it easy for you to do that. I want to remind everyone you can donate to Age Out Angels every time you make a purchase from Amazon. Oh, Black Friday's coming up. Yay. Cha-ching.
Thanksgiving.
All you have to do is designate Age Out Angels to be your Amazon Smile designee. And what happens is a portion of the money that you spend at Amazon will go to Age Out Angels, and it doesn't cost you 1 penny more. Isn't that amazing? You can help us out in that way. I can make it easy for you to designate Age Out Angels as your Amazon Smile recipient. All you have to do is contact me either via Facebook or greg@ageoutangels.org, and I can send you a link that will take you directly to our designation. If you just joined us, my guests are Kevin Baldwin and Patricia Hall. And they are here representing Men for Hope, and Sean Jackson, who is representing the Isles Mill 1 project. So Sean, I want to start this segment with you because I want to hear more about this project. I've been in this building. I've been in
It's
this.
spectacular, isn't it?
Well, Trenton has just, bazillions of those old warehouse type buildings from the time when we were a manufacturing mecca.
Indeed.
Right.
But given that we're a Hamilton-based radio show, I want to make sure we're clear that this is a Hamilton-based building.
It is actually
We are
in Hamilton, yes.
Indeed.
It
But
is in
that's one of
Hamilton.
the things we're trying to talk with people about is the issues and the needs of these communities. They don't know municipal boundaries. There are challenges that
Yeah, that's right.
that come through to Hamilton, to Ewing, to across Mercer County,
That's right.
as well as to Trenton. So that's one of the messages with our project is this is a set of challenges that are not limited to just our urban areas.
Absolutely, and I mean, you were talking about lead in the water. We were Trenton Water Works when we lived in Lawrenceville and Hamilton. It's all
Right.
Trenton Water Works.
Indeed.
And getting those letters that said there could be lead in your water.
And it's important that that is a component of one of the things we really need to deal with and treat appropriately, effectively. Trenton Water Works has made a lot of progress over the last year. The mayor and the new leadership he brought to Trenton Water Works has made a lot of big steps forward to improve the quality of what's going on there. And so that's been exciting. One of the projects that Isles works on, in addition to this building, is trying to tackle the lead paint problem. If you're in an older home, 40 years or more older, you need to get your home tested. Find out if you have lead paint there. 'Cause
Yeah.
lead in the paint was legal until late 1970s, early 1980s in this country. And so those homes, that paint's still there. If it chips, if there's dust, it's going to be poisoning our children. And that's why we need to make sure we're looking out for that and dealing with that problem. And that's one of the things we do at Isles. It's a big focus of our effort.
Absolutely. Now, but let's talk about this building. How can we describe it to people? Is it a square city block?
About.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable structure. It dates back to the 1890s. It was started by the Henry Rothschild from New York. Saw when the new rail line opened up. Pennsylvania Railroad built the line from Philadelphia to New York. Lots of business folks started looking around and thinking, that's a good place to locate a factory. And here we were, basically halfway between New York and Philadelphia. Great place to build. So they started building this textile factory in the 1890s. And about 15 years later, sold it to the Strauss family, who started making shirts there. And it was a place, it's got a really remarkable history that started with, it was a factory with 400, 500 young women working there, teenagers. This is before a lot of the labor law reforms had come.
Sure.
And these girls were all working, long hours, not great conditions, I'm sure. And it's got it actually has a piece in that labor movement where there were started to be some strikers and some bold young women who were willing to stand there with a sign and say, this isn't right and this isn't fair and we're not going to take it. And one of the managers came along and smacked this young woman and said, get out of here. Well, the girls heard her screams, and 500 girls came running out of this building, chased this manager around. He locked himself in one of those rail cars that had come off the rail line to protect himself. But it ended up, near a riot that got reported in the New York Times. And it was part of the no pun intended, but part of the fabric of what becomes the child labor movement in the country. Shortly, this is right around the same time of the terrible fire in New York, where all those young girls perished in a building that was locked shut. And so this building has some of that history right here on, the Trenton-Hamilton border. And it had been, after 30 years as a shirt factory, moved into becoming a luggage manufacturing factory. And it was a spot where they made a lot of sporting good bags, your early golf bags, bowling ball bags, and then during the war to make luggage for soldiers. And that carried on this luggage manufacturing into the 70s and the 80s, but then it died off, and the industry moved elsewhere.
Yeah.
But the building didn't go anywhere.
That's
it just
right.
got left behind.
Yeah.
And it started to collapse, and
Abandoned.
it started to fall apart.
It was abandoned.
It was abandoned. And over time, it was realized that this is a great asset. It's got to be saved. So along with our partner, we're doing this jointly with another Hamilton businessman named Danny Popkin with First Properties. They have a very successful project known as Studio Park that's just down the block on East State Street. He saw this as an opportunity and came to us as a partner and said, I'm going to do my part down on this end of the building. Why don't you do something with the nonprofit world? What could you guys do? And that's where Marty Johnson and the team at Isles really started thinking about what could this be. We were looking for a place to build a headquarters for Isles. At that point, it was 25 some years it had been around, and they realized we needed to be someplace new, but we didn't want to just build an office building, just be in an office building. We wanted to be in a place where we could leverage the work we're doing with the work like organizations that Patricia and Kelvin are working with. How do we make not only our efforts successful, but let's bring together a variety of folks and we can be more successful together.
Right.
And that's the essence of what we're trying to do. So it's called the Social Profit Center at Mill One. And the goal is to bring tenants in that are passionate about how do we deal with some of these social challenges in new and innovative ways. As we've heard tonight talked about, How do we reach young people who are in need in an innovative and dynamic way? And then how can we work together? So it's not just showing up and this is where our office is, but this is going to be a center where people will collaborate. We're going to leverage each other's relationships. We were talking before we all came on the air and talked about some of the work that the ministry works on with trying to get young people connected with meaningful work. And I talked about, with Kelvin, the work that we do about creating urban gardens. And we need volunteers to help till the soil and reclaim. Isles has had a rich history. We've created over 70 urban gardens in the city of Trenton where we take vacant property that's doing nothing. It's garbage-strewn, empty lots. And we get the neighbors together and say, would you like to have a garden? I mean, if they don't want to have a garden.
You don't,
Yeah, we don't have any gardeners. But, the reaction's been tremendous. And we've produced thousands of pounds of fresh vegetables for folks to share and enjoy in their neighborhood and give them a chance to work and see something come out of the ground. And we make sure it's new and fresh dirt. And we have garden experts who come in and teach folks, because I have no clue about how you grow carrots or strawberries successfully. But Jim Simon and his team at our office have done a great job of being able to bring all these folks together. But I raise that because that's a mini example of what a social profit center will be like, is how can we bring together different organizations that are facing very different challenges and trying to work on those on an individual by individual basis, but how can we do it maybe as a group more collectively and more effectively? And that's what's exciting about it. And ultimately, we don't want this to be a center where the collaboration is just limited to those folks who are in the building. We want to make it what we call a virtual social profit center so that organizations from across the region can be members here. We're going to do programs about how to be more effective nonprofits, how to be better at fundraising, how to run your books well and efficiently so that organizations can complete their 990s in a timely and appropriate fashion. And as well as bring in speakers to talk about whether it's trying to deal, and help young people who are, say, coming out of prison and need help with reentry. Interesting speakers along these lines. It's going to be a place that is a real hub of activity. It's not just an office building. It's going to be a center where, as we say in our handouts, we want to do good better. And a critical part of doing good better is collaboration and learning from other people and listening to other people and seeing how we can leverage each other's work to advance the big cause.
So tremendously needed too, because what becomes very obvious when you start a nonprofit quickly is that there's a zillion nonprofits and we're all so fragmented. Right?
Precisely.
We're also
Everybody's fighting for the same money too.
And fighting over the same dollars and
if we learn to share, it'd be easier.
And yet we
Absolutely.
we can't be all things to all people because we're just not big enough to do
Exactly,
that,
right.
So we need each other, in order to do that. So Men for Hope now has expanded to Women for Hope
Yes.
as well. Now, but Hope, HOPE.
Helping other people's elevate.
Okay.
That's the acronym.
That's the acronym.
Helping other people
All right.
elevate.
And
In
so
whatever area they need elevation in, because everybody ain't the same.
That's right.
Everybody needs help
individual
in different
care.
areas. Like
yeah.
you might have a home, you just might need to know how to keep your home.
Exactly.
You might be having problems in school, but we can teach you how to get education and why school is important. Or you might not want to go to college. You might need to go to trade. Hopefully we can hook up with someone to say, okay, this is where you can go to trade school at.
Yeah.
What's your desire and how can we help? That's our main thing.
Absolutely. And once again, this is something that's needed absolutely everywhere. I don't know where you're listening to this program from right now. I know we have some overseas listeners as well as domestic, but I always tell people no matter where you live, you're never more than about 15 miles away from 150 homeless children. And so pick a spot. Not Alaska, okay? But but these are things that are needed everywhere. So is this building completed? Is it ready?
So the building will be open late spring, early summer next year. We're in our last phase of construction. and we're out looking for tenants.
Okay.
So
Can people
we have
go
a
online?
website.
Yeah,
Yep, we have a website where you can come, and I'll give that out at the
Go.
end.
Do it
but
now.
it's a it's the building is going to be a unique combination of things for folks to be able to come and learn, to be able to connect with others, and also find a place to hang their hat. And as you talked about with organizations that are trying to start, one of the things we're importing is the idea of the WeWork model, where you can come and just rent a desk in the office
Yes.
and be able to have access. So if
Yeah.
you're trying to get your
I like that
nonprofit
idea.
started, then all you need to do is come rent a desk
Rent a
and then
desk.
be
I
able to
like
come a
that.
member, and you've got a place where you can camp. You've got a place where you can talk to other people and get some advice,
Fantastic.
and see how we can do a cooperative effort at helping you launch. and get
Fantastic.
started.
And we're not going to let you go until you say that website. But first, we have to take a short break. So stay right where you are, and we'll be back in 1 minute with my final words. Sorry.
I meant to.
And we are back. The piece I did at the front of the show illustrates how kids age out of foster care pretty much unprepared to navigate life. And a lot of that has to do with the lack of basic education. We have too many children who graduate high school but have sixth grade level skills. And that's simply not good enough if they want to go on to higher education, or believe it or not, even if they want to get into the military, they need better education than that. So what I want to do, though, is stop short of just blaming the schools, because they do bear a certain amount of responsibility. They're not blameless, but they're also really caught between a rock and a hard place a lot. Like we seem to have an expectation that our schools and also our police will raise our children.
Start at home.
And I think that's going too far. Start at home. Thank you,
Amen.
Pastor.
Community effort.
That's right. So the roots of the problems faced by children and adults runs deep. I mean, come on, it runs deep through poverty, through institutionalized racism, lack of opportunity, disproportionate incarceration. It runs through underfunded schools, underpaid teachers, and on and on. There's a litany of like 10 components that I can just pop off the top of my head that all adds up to an 18-year-old who graduated high school without the skills necessary to be successful. Now, all this ties into why we won't have a live show next week, because it's not because of Thanksgiving. So stay with me and follow me with this, okay? We're not having a show next week because I just lost my mother a couple of days ago. And I need to, don't feel bad for me now. She was 94. We should
God
all
bless
be
her.
so lucky, right?
bless her.
Great run.
That's not the point of this. I'm not looking for the pity, but more importantly, when she was alive, my mother was more than a teacher. She was an education innovator. In the late 1970s, she invented and implemented an individualized instruction method that produced astounding results. It enabled children who were gifted to really soar, and children who were behind in grade level to catch up. And she taught it to me, and I had the pleasure of practicing that for about 5 years. And so fast forward to today, and I've based the relationship between mentors and mentees in Age Out Angels on that same individualized program that I learned from my mother, because it works. Now, here's the point. To honor her life and work, I'm creating a fundraiser on Facebook to go into an education fund that will provide private tutoring to underprivileged high school youth. And the cool part about it actually is the tutors will all be certified teachers from the community. So when the money is spent, it will actually go directly back into the community where it's needed the most. And most importantly, we'll get a higher percentage of youth to graduate high school with skills in mathematics and language arts that will give them a greater chance for success. At the very least, level the playing field with children in more affluent schools. And, and one child at a time, which is how we do it. We can make a dent in the cycle of poverty, but we need your help to do it. So please, tomorrow, go on my Facebook page, search on my name, Greg Rapport, and give generously to help these children who won't get help without us. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another hour talking about youth who should matter more in our political and economic discourse than they do. We thank you so much for tuning in and maybe helping spread the word. Again, we offer a humble thanks to Hamilton Radio, to my most incredible guests, Kevin Baldwin, Patricia Hall, and Sean Jackson. Please, let's make a date to meet right back here live in 2 weeks on December 9th for a special hour with Professor Daniel Crofts. Put that on your calendars right now. Thanks to our engineer, Ruben. Music provided by Angel Fire. Our webmaster is Carmen Garcia Valera. Our social media specialist is Bailey Braverman. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Do something nice for somebody on Thanksgiving. I'm thankful myself for each and every one of you. Have a wonderful evening.